All right, welcome to Cinema Rabbit Trails, another episode.
Yes.
And today we watched Justice League, controversial superhero film, because not everyone seemed to like it.
Right.
But anyway, we're going to discuss it. So sit back, relax. I have my, I upgraded from the Cinema Rabbit Trails to my Doctor Who TARDIS mug. So I'm very, very happy about this. So
We just need to start building a collection of like all these different mugs that we have. So we have the Cinematic Rabbit Trails are like the usuals, and then we'll have different ones coming.
Once we start making some money with this, we'll get different mugs for every single movie we watch. We'll just relate the mug to each movie. So.
Get like an Eye of Sauron. He was drink out of the eye.
Drink out of the eye.
Yes.
But anyway, first of all,
give a synopsis. Somebody, whose turn is it?
You go.
Huh? Okay.
I did one last time actually.
Well, let's take a gander here. So obviously this is Justice League, so it is the sequel, if you can call it that, in this world of bigger movie franchises, to Man of Steel, which is Superman. But Justice League, of course, is the DC get together of all of our favorite superheroes. So you have in this one specifically Wonder Woman, Superman, Batman, The Flash, and Aquaman. So Wonder Woman and Superman and Batman have all had their films prior to this, right?
Well, Batman, we haven't had Ben Affleck's Batman specifically a movie, but
Okay.
we know Batman's story. We've
Right.
had plenty of movies.
So anyway, in the movie before this, we had Batman versus Superman, which, oh, that's right, yeah, which, spoiler alert, Superman dies in that film. And so this movie begins with this new threat coming, which is known as Steppenwolf. And Steppenwolf is after these 3 boxes of power, and these boxes, when he collects all 3 of them, will have unlimited power, and so it's up to the Justice League to stop him before he does that. And in the meantime, they're trying to figure out, okay, we can't do this alone, and so they find a way to see if they can resurrect Superman. And they do, and all is well in the end, and the team is assembled.
Yeah.
Missed anything?
Oh wait,
just that
the Avengers assemble. The Justice League unites. Yes, unites.
Okay.
Thank you for correcting me. Yes, you.
I see. Have to differentiate.
Trademarks, all that stuff.
No, I'm right there with you.
Also keeping in mind that they're mourning the death of Superman at the beginning of the film.
Right.
Yeah.
So that plays a part in how they address the issue.
And just a quick note before we really jump into this. Many of you probably know there was the Justice League cartoon in the late 90s, early 2000s, and then there was Justice League Unlimited. And I enjoyed this movie I enjoyed this movie because I really don't think I had any expectations of it. So I feel like, a lot of people who are really diehard DC fans were just so disappointed because, honestly, there could have been better character developments and better arcs, but it was just a fun movie overall. Yeah. But compared to the Justice League cartoon and Justice League Unlimited, they're 2 different.
Yeah, well, and to me, I thought the movie felt like a cartoon. Like, it just felt like a live-action cartoon movie of the DC movies. Like, I loved the animated show of Unlimited and just Justice League and Teen Titans and Young Justice. Those were all great. But even the DC movies that are a little bit more on the adult side, it just felt like one of those. That's what it felt like, just with live action and better CGI effects. That's basically what it felt like to me. And I loved that. And I didn't, other than Wonder Woman, we haven't had like a huge backstory on all these characters.
Well, backstory, but I'm talking about just overall character development and relatability. Right. And granted, I think in the time that we're in, there was just this big push that, hey, we need to have this big movie because, as we're talking about, the Avengers was coming out, and so DC's trying to get there. They're trying to ride the wave and catch up with Marvel.
Well, and I think we've been ruined by 2 things. One, Christopher Nolan spoiled us with the Dark Knight trilogy because that was so personalized of Batman.
And hey, I can't fault him for the.
Yeah, no, you can't fault him. I wish Christopher Nolan would take over the entire DC universe of movies. That would be amazing. And Hans Zimmer can do all the soundtracks. Sorry, Adam.
Okay,
But-
I forgive you.
Okay. But I think we've been spoiled. Even DC fans, like hardcore DC fans, even the DC fans who may not like Marvel, they've probably watched most of the Marvel movies, and they've been spoiled by them because they've been...
in the 10 years. This has been 10 years.
Yeah, it's been a decade in the making.
It's crazy.
Yeah, exactly.
And we've just gotten so much character development, and one specific... Like, we've... Marvel has set the standard and the exact style. Like, this is how a superhero movie is made. Don't deviate from it, because this way always creates a blockbuster. And I know that's the end goal, and technically Justice League was still a blockbuster, but they did a different format, which people aren't used to. it just felt like a cartoon live action, which Marvel feels like its own kind of style of superhero-dom. So.
Yeah, and I think you could say Marvel speaks to the culture a little bit, to their benefit. I would say they really nailed the humor side of it. They're very good at just that relatable kind of humor. For example, of course, you have Guardians of the Galaxy. The humor that principally that was the key aspect, I would say, why people loved it. That and Chris Pratt. But
and Marvel
Guardians of the Galaxy and Chris Pratt.
Well, I think Marvel has more instant gratification of a lot of stuff too.
Sure.
Yeah, and that's what I mean is it's that relatable humor, that immediate humor.
Yeah.
And you see even reference to pop culture and these things people can latch onto.
Yeah.
So you could almost say DC, and at least in this film, felt a little more abstract because their discussions as you listen through the film is a lot about justice and who was in the right and wrong. And Steppenwolf was there simply to conquer the world. So you didn't have as many detailed stories or character analysis that you did in others.
Yeah, you had one movie that built up the villain, and that was Batman versus Superman. And only the extended edition actually built it up enough, I think. I hated the theatrical version of Batman versus Superman. A friend of mine convinced me to watch the extended version, watched it, loved it. It just adds more, and I wish they would do an extended to this one. But because I read up on on what all the deleted scenes were, and at least most of them. I missed the one about Superman and the proposal with Lois
it was
Lane,
in the ironically, it was in the trailer for the film.
I guess I didn't see that trailer. Maybe it was one of the trailers because I think I only watched the first trailer of Justice League that ever came out.
Yeah, I can confirm
Or one of
that.
them. But anyway, there was a lot more detail on the character development. They did do more with Cyborg and his backstory a little bit. They kind of had like a 5-minute flashback sort type of thing. But
flashback.
But and even more with Flash and everything. But it's just because they were worried about time constraints. Like Marvel has a big enough franchise where their movies can go past 2 hours. They don't care. They know they're going to make money off of it. But Justice League is newer. They're not sure. And so that movie with the credits comes down to the 2-hour mark.
I would actually disagree with that because look at Avengers Age of Ultron. There was a lot of the way the story was laid out. There were a lot of things that it cut to that you're like, it worked, but from just from a story arc, like the first time you see Ultron, you see him as it cuts right to him like having like his almost perfect body after he breaks out of Stark's tower.
Right.
And so to me, like it would have made more sense to build up the more character as he's assembling himself. You just see him like, oh, he's got a body. So I mean, it seems.
Well, you did see it cut away to where it goes underneath, like back into the robotic construction area within the tower, where he starts repiecing the robots together to build his own armor.
Yeah, but it still felt a little forced. But
yeah, a little bit. But I'll give you that.
But it's kind of sad though when you have films there, you're trying to make this great story here, but I kind of get it where it's like hey, you can make more money if it's this length because then you can show more films of. You can show the film more times in a day, make more money. So
yeah, and you could say there's a lot of expectations for films in our culture because back in the day, you used to have. I mean, way back in the day, you would have films come out, and it would be this one film or this 2 film is there at the cinema, like even back in the 50s.
Yeah.
In the 60s, and so you just got used to just simply responding to these things. And of course, there were reviews from people, but it wasn't as the expectations weren't as high because we have more conveniences, which gives us more time to respond in a more detailed manner to these things.
I would say it's 2 things, and then we'll jump into the topics. Definitely, Iron Man really changed the game back in 2008 because then this is what got the whole Marvel train going. But then of course our technology, where we have that year iPhone came out in 2008, so we're able to respond quicker on social media. There's a international and global immediate global market where people can see the movie. They can access clips from the movie, even like 5 minutes, watch 5 minutes from Wonder Woman, watch 5 minutes from this film, just because they want it. That's a way of drawing attention. That would have never happened 10, 20 years ago.
That's true.
But
yeah.
One theme definitely was the music, of course. What did we want to talk about regarding music for Justice
They
League?
finally brought us themes for each individual superhero, which was so
Yes.
gratifying.
Yeah.
Gratifying because
Gratifying.
gratifying, gratifying. Just because we don't have that in Marvel anymore. We have the Avengers theme, which even in Avengers Age of Ultron, that theme kind of got tucked away a little bit more than it was in the first movie. It's just like every time with Marvel, we have one movie that's either the first movie of the superhero or the first group movie, and we have a theme for the first one that's usually very recognizable. The second movie, the sequel, or the next group movie together, like Age of Ultron or Captain America 2, Iron Man 2, it's like those themes go away and just becomes just adventure music with no distinctive, memorable theme.
Which is a
And-
modern quality of music.
Yeah, but even, I mean, I don't know. Most
Right.
movies tend to have that. I mean, a lot of the
film
big
music
hits
is
tend to
different.
have recognizable soundtracks.
Yeah, so you definitely had, and I love that. They picked an older composer. You have Danny Elfman, of course.
Yeah.
And Danny Elfman is good at themes, but I like how they brought he brought the classic feel into it to where you did have the themes, but also something distinctive. It wasn't my favorite score, but I do think it had a distinctive sound.
Yeah.
I think the orchestra gave it less of a bed of sound, which we're used to other composers that use a lot of electronics to try and enhance what's on the screen.
Yeah.
And
Well,
that's
yeah,
not
because
always a
you're
good-
pulling
good
from
thing.
the old Batman movies theme, so you're copying that, and then you do Hans Zimmer's theme from Wonder Woman. We don't really have themes for Flash, Cyborg, or Aquaman yet. I hope we get something distinctive for all those characters, though.
They were sprinkled through the films. And I did a little research on that. Just basically, Danny Elfman said, "I will leave you these themes, and you can develop them if you want." So he did leave some themes for each of them, and you'll hear them sprinkled through the film.
Okay, that's good.
By the way, Marvel, I think Black Panther may have been the last one that actually really used themes very well.
They did. I will give them that. They
it
did a
wasn't
very good job of.
as, like
And it's more just
memorable.
style. Yeah, there wasn't like an exact melody line that you can remember, but the style is very, very definite. Just kind of that blend of like African tribal, superhero, and R&B. It was a very interesting but
Yeah.
very cool blend. A lot of syncopation, a lot of different time signatures colliding. Even it was really very interesting to see in a film, especially a superhero film. So
Agreed. Yeah, so well done on the music at least.
Yes,
of
way to go,
bringing
Danny
those
Elfman.
Identities, yeah,
But-
identities in. Of course, the other thing we were going to touch on was Justice League. So we're going to talk a little bit about justice, I suppose.
what
and
is
that means.
justice?
What
Define
is
justice
justice?
for us.
Oh, good grief.
I mean, you can look up Webster's dictionary if you want.
No.
Okay.
Why don't we just do that?
Why don't we go to it?
We
All
have
right,
we have a
let's-
starting.
I'm
point.
actually curious what they actually define justice as. I mean, you can really just say it's the
it's just a picture of
It just
Batman.
is.
It just,
Oh, the puns. That was okay. You can do better.
it just.
Can't. We're just warming up. It's okay.
Oh yes.
Anyway,
Okay.
What we got?
Justice, according to the dictionary from Google, number one is just behavior or treatment. That helps narrow it down. Number two, a judge or magistrate in particular. Okay, it's talking about the judge, the actual title of a judge.
So I guess.
But justice could be looked at two ways. It's punishing the wrongdoer, and it's also protecting the innocent.
yeah, true.
right.
Out of curiosity, how would you guys define personally? Again, and I'm of course I'm the political one here.
Yeah, push
But
us.
how would you guys, in your own terms, define social justice? What's the difference between justice and social justice? Or you have something to say?
Yeah, I guess I would suppose when you say social justice, we're referring to a moral stance, whatever that moral stance may be. For example, of course, a very popular example would be Martin Luther King Jr. You could say that's social justice and trying to bring an equality, perhaps, to an injustice. Essentially, I mean that would maybe the simplest way. Of
Well,
putting it.
let me reverse the question. What's the difference between an injustice and and a social injustice. Let's reverse it.
What's the difference between an injustice and a social injustice?
Yeah. So as in like breaking the law or breaking social code, let's put it that way, because that's kind of how it goes. Because if it's a social injustice, that implies it's not against the law, but it's something
okay.
that is hypothetically morally wrong. Again, the term has been loosely used all over the place, but of what social justice is.
For
but,
example, you're talking like it's not morally wrong to let your parking meter expire, but it is in a sense it's breaking the rule, and therefore you're going to get a fine for it. But it's not like a moral. It's not.
I mean, those are set up by government, though.
Right.
So that is technically breaking the law if you don't pay your parking meter.
Yes.
That's
and there is a punishment associated with
right.
that.
So that's not social justice. That's actually justice. That's normal justice.
That's
Okay.
So social justice would be
You're
I think
defining.
you could add like lawful good, something like that. Lawful good. In other words,
Yeah.
you're bringing morality into it more, which again, that's not strictly defined either.
right,
to
and that's
society.
I'm bringing up this question because, and I think it can apply because we see more and more superhero movies talking about the social justice issues that we actually are hearing about in the news from like the social justice warriors of our generation, things like that. So I'm curious what we can give that what definition we can give social justice, because it's not actually lawful injustice.
Let's. Why don't we point to hope? I think that may be a little larger. Because if you think about if you are seeking for social
We'll
justice,
just draw an S and call it a day.
right, right.
It's my world. It means hope. It looks like an S. Hope doesn't start with an S.
Yeah. Well, conversation over.
There we go.
So when you deal with social justice, what you're really fighting for is a hope for a specific cause, and so social justice refers to something hopeful that brings many together. So you know
it's
what I mean?
the pursuit. Social justice is the pursuit of lawful justice.
Yeah.
You might even say.
Yeah.
Therefore, social injustice is something that is legal but needs to be pursued to become an illegal act. So that in the future, that same act would be considered lawful injustice as opposed to just social injustice.
I mean, like slavery, like Wilberforce's day it was legal,
Right.
and the cause for social justice was, of course, the slave trade, but it was also moral reform of all of England because it was terrible. Children were being chained to work on their workspaces in very dangerous conditions, and so it was him giving England her moral compass back.
Yeah.
And in many ways, we've lost that here in the United States.
Yeah,
So
true.
you could say when it comes to social justice, it's a combination of morality and law.
Okay.
But here's what's going to be interesting if we're talking about this whole idea of what's interesting about superheroes like Batman's character, for example. Definitely he's a vigilante, but he definitely fights for justice. He punishes the wrongdoer. That's his role as his superhero role. But he misses out on the whole. As I'm understanding, you're trying to define social justice as kind of doing the right thing for somebody. Even though there's no law that says it's right or wrong, it's doing the right thing for someone. Batman can't do that. He doesn't help someone who's struggling to pay their mortgage, or this group who's. I'm trying to think of an example here, but I'm saying, do you see what I'm trying to say? Where there are social, justice warriors out there, and they're fighting for people who are. There's the whole, fighting for a higher wage, or insurance. I mean, those are forms of social justice where there's a belief that we need to fight for these people to have this, or they don't have to experience that. You see what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I get that.
So I think what's interesting about superheroes, it's kind of a blunt instrument where he can't do that. Yeah, he's Bruce Wayne. He can buy the bank and give the Clarks, give the Kents back their house. But if he didn't have that, I mean, what's Batman going to do? So in a way, we're kind of heroes that Batman can't be in our own little way.
Yeah.
Well, and you can contrast Superman and Batman's sense of justice, because Batman almost has a personal sense of justice, because
That's why he's a vigilante. Yeah.
Exactly, he's going to take care of it in a justly way that he sees fit.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But he's
while
also coming from a
Superman is-
place of pain, whereas Superman
Right.
is coming from just a place of like this
Hope.
is hope. Yeah, I
He's
guess.
like lawful good,
yeah.
almost.
There we go.
Of hope.
And that's actually an interesting correlation.
Hmm.
The superhero who derives his power from, technically, I know Batman doesn't actually have powers, but derives his power from pain is a lot weaker than the superhero who derives his power from hope.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Something
Is
poetic
that
about
always
that.
true though?
I don't know.
Pain can be a powerful thing. For example,
Pain-
Sith Lords.
Well, yes, but
But he's saying, but what Jerry's pointing at is there's a place for, there can be a place for both, but he's saying his whole entire identity, his whole entire motive for living, you really can't live a powerful life out of fear. We know people who live fearful lives, they either become maniacal control freaks,
Right.
or they just completely hide in the shadows.
well, and that's where Batman changes, because now we see, after what happened with Batman versus Superman and Superman dies, we see hope instilled in Batman, and that makes him stronger in that he collects the team together, which makes everybody stronger.
Right.
Hmm.
So
So
hope
Yeah.
does win, as because it instills a group mindset, a teamwork mindset, which always
Well,
does
can-
better than a solo act.
and Commissioner Gordon even told Batman, he said, "Hey, it's nice to see that you're playing nice with others." And
Yeah.
Batman's like, "Maybe it's temporary."
Yeah.
But
Of course, that was kind of sarcastic, but because
Right.
Aquaman just said, "Just like a bat, I
dig
dig it."
And Wonder
Maybe
Woman.
temporary.
Just think about, we were talking about uniting them. Wonder Woman was the glue with keeping the team together. She confronted everyone. If you think about it individually,
well,
Yeah.
she
as each
kind
of them addressed struggles.
well, kind of with that theme of hope, she's the one who finds the hope in each of each of them and draws that out.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of like
exactly.
that. I s-
Batman's the drill sergeant saying, "This is worth laying down your life for. All right, do your thing." And one
Well,
was like-
that reminds me of that line. I just love how insensitive it is, ironically, where he's just like, the world needs Superman. And he's just like, well, what if he prefers to be dead? He'll be like, he'll get over it. It's like,
it's a little.
you're really
cold.
selfish, Batman. You know that? I mean, I get it, but
Yeah,
it's funny.
that
but,
was a good line though. That was pretty good.
Kind of on that note, though, we were starting to talk about one of the other themes was friendship and camaraderie. What did we want to say about that theme?
This film did, in my opinion, very well with that dynamic, with uniting each of them, a few more than others. For example, you saw the way Flash and
Cyborg.
thank you, Cyborg united over the fact that they were considered the accidents.
Yeah.
Because Flash was
Fist
hit
bump.
by lightning, the other was,
Okay, we don't do fist bump.
Right. One was a result of an experiment, and so they were both considered the accidents of the group,
Yeah.
and so they united over that. But overall, too, you didn't see the bickering that you did with the Avengers.
Yeah.
With the Avengers, it was almost impossible to get them to glue together. It's like they were using school glue instead of super glue, and it made it a lot harder. And you saw these clash of personalities, which for that movie, it definitely suited it well.
Yeah. True.
It made interesting dynamic. But as far as glue, I think this team was very good with their dynamic, and Wonder Woman really helped to bring that together.
Yeah, you got to wonder, because if you're going to correlate Justice League versus the Avengers, because you think the first Avengers movie, the moment that they got together as a team for the first time was Nick Fury manipulating them because he made them think that Phil Coulson died, and he put blood on the cards that he got out of Coulson's locker, telling them that they were in Coulson's jacket. So he kind of manipulates them, and Nick Fury is it's very secrets oriented and how he gets the team together. And we see, like in Captain America Winter Soldier and Age of Ultron, these things fall apart because the team is keeping things from each other. So like the team is built on secrets and manipulation, and Civil War, it all kind of falls apart. And then Justice League, we have fewer characters, I'll give you, but we have fewer characters as far as main superhero characters, but it's literally superheroes to superheroes teaming up. It's not an organization trying to piece them together, and there's no secrets that they have. They share each other's identities right off the bat and everything too.
Because the other thing that you have to kind of also consider is everyone to a degree, is stepping into this role. Where I feel like Iron Man's kind of established, I am Iron Man. Thor is I am Thor. King of
Yeah.
God
Hulk
of
is
Thunder.
really the only one who had some identity issues.
Right. So all these other characters, like Wonder Woman knows who she is, but in a way, she's stepping into her own new character as in the movie, saying, you step out of the shadows, or you can live as a bat your entire life. But like Flash, she's excited about, hey, I have friends. I need friends. But I love this character. But like he's stepping into that role. Aquaman is when he's having his really transparent moment. He's saying how I never embraced the land or the sea. So he's kind of stepping into this new role of what it means to be responsible and a guardian protector with the powers that he has. Cyborg is stepping out of his hiding, and
You could almost say Aquaman is kind of like a Strider, like is an Aragorn.
Yeah.
Because he has royalty in his blood, but he doesn't want to take it.
right.
Yeah. So yeah,
He's young. He wants to do stuff. So
yeah, he just wants
Yeah,
to
a couple
do stuff.
100,000 years old. Young
well, he is young.
in Atlantean standards.
I know, but
yes,
I mean,
yeah.
he is maybe what 29 years old.
By Atlantean standards, you mean?
No,
or,
he is not
like
hundred.
sea
He's
age?
not thousands of years old. Aquaman isn't.
Aquaman's pretty old technically as far as actual number of years go, but he's not. I mean, by Atlantean standards, he's young. But
I
he's.
don't know.
I
don't
thought
know
he
about
was
that.
at least a
I'm
couple
just
hundred
having.
years old.
I
but
mean, I
Not
just
sure. Have no idea.
assume.
I may be way off.
I'm not. I
may
mean,
be way
I don't
off,
know
so.
how long his lifespan like would be, but I'm just assuming he was in his 30s, and that's why he's like, I'm young. And there's stuff. I want to go out and do stuff. I mean, I just assume that he was.
Anybody
I'll have
have
to
a
look that up.
comic book
No,
laying
I don't.
around? No. Okay.
I don't. Not at the moment.
We'll Google that later.
Yeah. Anyway.
Friendship, camaraderie. Let's see. We did touch about morality a little bit.
Villain. We could talk a little bit about the villain.
Yeah, I can
Villain
mention
wise,
Steppenwolf.
there have in
Wait,
this...
you got to do it in your Russian accent.
Okay, Steppenwolf. Steppenwolf. He wasn't as much of a the villain.
Say Steppenwolf again.
Steppenwolf.
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 Wolf. It's like
He
Step
didn't-
and Wolf.
He didn't really resonate with the audiences. So, and why was that? Why, for example, why was he?
I bet our
As
Russian people
opposed
are
to
like, we do not sound like that.
No,
I don't
they
know if we've
all.
expanded to the Russian market with this podcast yet.
They don't.
Even people who do, like, I don't know.
And I think there's some clear correlations as to why Steppenwolf or Loki is a better enemy than Steppenwolf. But I'd like to hear you guys' thoughts on what the contrast and
Well,
what their
I think we
similarities
had
are.
a little more build up with Loki than we did Steppenwolf.
You sound more like Randy Newman now.
I was trying to. I was trying to sound like Gru.
Gru?
Yeah, from
Oh,
Despicable
Gru,
Me.
yeah.
Okay.
That's right, yeah.
But he's right.
I'm mocking the Russian accent. I'm trying to. Sorry.
Yeah, we're taking a Russian.
We
VTuber.
admire Russian accents very, very much. That's why we do them, right? It's good, yeah. That's more German. But
more
anyway.
German.
That's a little German, yeah.
Yeah,
so.
but anyway, yeah, absolutely. There's more. Honestly, Steppenwolf's backstory as what's his motivation? He wanted to conquer.
Yeah, he's
Okay,
Yeah.
not much to him.
let's start the movie. I mean, it's
Yeah.
so. I mean, Loki's he's the god of mischief in a sense. He kind of has a similar role, but he's definitely Steppenwolf is
Yeah.
more of a plot device than an actual character that people
Yeah.
relate to.
Yeah.
Well, and DC has the problem of where they have a good number of really interesting backstory of superheroes. Their villains usually are lackluster because they usually have Joker is the only really different one. Most of the other villains in DC universe have two different goals: money or power. That's literally it. There's not much other goal.
Well, isn't that when you really dig down, isn't that what any villain wants?
Well, yeah, but I guess it's there's not much backstory to the villains as well. Like there's not relationship between the villains and the heroes as much, except for Batman and Joker. Batman has more intimate relationships with a lot of his villains than a lot of the other characters tend to.
Well, that's the what you said. Did you say power and money, or did you say power and money?
I did,
used
so.
to-
Okay, I was gonna say the power. I think for a good villain would be, and this is actually an interesting idea. The power or the money is not the end goal; it's the means to something else. For example, in Black Panther, Killmonger, he wanted power not because he had a, I want to be king, Mufasa complex going on.
He needed
here.
power to fulfill
He
his to save others.
He wanted
basically.
power because he says the world is not as I see it, and I want to change that. You know, in a way, it's kind of
Yeah.
in a way, it's kind of like Batman's mentality, where it's like this is. And I think that we all feel that there's insensitive injustice, and therefore I'm going to pursue justice, you know, by my own what's right in my eyes.
It's
Well, and
world
actually,
view. It's
Going back
world
to
view.
the social justice we were talking about, that's kind of what he was. Killmonger was kind of like the social justice warrior. He was seeing things that were
And we relate to that. And
Yeah,
that's
we
what
relate-
makes him such a good villain. It's like we
He
see
was,
where he's
yeah.
coming from on that.
Yeah, because he saw things in the world that were wrong, except that his solution was to destroy everything and take over the people who were causing this rather than do anything diplomatically or not so murdery.
You gotta stop being so murdery. Okay,
Yeah, well,
it's not cool.
Yeah. Stop
not cool, man.
Yeah, for once, I mean, you could say like a simple villain, a simple, clear-cut villain is refreshing at times, but
Yeah.
perhaps the fact that he was CGI.
Yeah, that was
And-
probably my biggest thing. I would have preferred, even if he wasn't as big, just get John Cena or somebody and put him in a costume that was actually like a good quality costume. That would have been acceptable to me.
Yeah, yeah.
But
makes
because
it
he was,
threat.
yeah, because he
more
was very
real.
video game CGI. Like he wasn't like the CGI there wasn't as rich as I would have liked. I think they tried to do too much detail to where it just looked too animated.
They probably spent too much time taking out that mustache on Superman's face, right?
No, they spent too much time on Steppenwolf and didn't have enough time for the mustache.
Oh, okay.
It was at least more obvious to me. I'm not sure about you guys.
Yeah, it was kind of obvious, but
I actually didn't
with
notice it
these
this time
effects,
around.
we put this is a CGI beard. They have been growing beards, and we're
I actually have a full
that
Duck Dynasty
out.
beard right now.
It is. Our effects are very impressive.
Goes down to my belly button.
In fact, we're not even here right now. All of this is CGI. We're just doing the podcast audio wise.
We're just in a green screen room right now.
Yeah.
We are the green.
I'm
screen.
drinking virtual hot chocolate at the moment,
okay. So
and I'm virtually full at this point.
here we
Got
go.
that- You got all that technology from Wakanda, didn't you?
Yes,
This is starting to become a Black Panther.
This is
review
this is a
now.
vibranium cup. So
Anyway. So anyway, if anyone shoots you, just you got defense here. Just block
That's
it with that.
that's gonna be my new thing. So it's like people say they have abs of steel. I'm just like I'm gonna have I have abs of vibranium, guys.
That's a vibranium.
Anyway, but transitioning, another thing we were going to talk about was heroism, which we've kind of.
Wait, heroin?
I kept saying heroism. Heroism.
Sorry, quick side note. But have I shown you guys the Jedi Party? Have you seen that? The spoof on YouTube?
No,
Nope.
maybe you did. I think you
Okay,
did.
for anyone out there who has seen YouTube Jedi Party, it's basically bad lip reading remake. They remake the story of each Star Wars episode. The first one is
Oh,
Jedi Party,
yes.
and
Oh, and they add new
And-
voices, like change the storyline.
yes, and Qui-Gon Jinn, when he's talking to Anakin on the platform, he's like, Master Qui-Gon, I have a question. Master Yoda mentioned midi-chlorians. What are midi-chlorians? It's heroin. Basically, all the Jedi are like party people. Like they're basically a bunch of fraternity guys and girls.
That's,
Oh,
That's how they changed the story. Anyways,
We
that's
are-
a side note.
We are not.
It's heroin.
We are not advocating heroin in any shape or form. Please do
No,
not
no.
misinterpret.
We do advocate heroinism.
hero.
right.
Heroism and heroinism.
Enunciate. So we have touched on that briefly, but was there any? I had a thought or two I wanted to share, but do you guys have any thoughts on heroism?
I was gonna. In fact, you see a struggle with two heroes specifically in the film. With Batman, he doesn't feel qualified. He doesn't feel like he can lead the league like Clark could.
Because he doesn't inspire hope.
Right, and that's what he was focused on. But also, you see Wonder Woman, where you see a heated moment between Bruce and Diana, where he brings up her dead boyfriend,
Yeah.
Steve Trevor, as seen in Wonder Woman, talking about how you are still, you blame me, Bruce, for staying in the past, of not moving forward and taking over the league, and yet you're the one who's spent centuries mourning your boyfriend, essentially. And so you have both sides of them feeling like they are being pulled back to the past, and their impact is stunted because they're not stepping out to being the heroes that we know they will eventually become.
Yeah.
Which we're seeing that more with Superman. I think Superman-wise, they did really well with this film in depicting him as the Superman that we're familiar with.
First of
Like
all, he had a
both-
more vibrant costume. That's for sure.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
But like Wonder Woman quoted, she said, "I've been reacting, not leading."
Ooh,
So
absolutely.
her focus was like, "I'm just reacting to what's going on here," and in the meantime, the main issue is with her past and how she's trying to advance and what she can
Yeah.
offer the world and really just step out. You could say in faith, and actually be the woman that is a wonder.
Yeah.
I wonder who she is.
Oh my goodness.
But yeah, no, you've got to admit that was that's one of the parts where Wonder Woman really shines because you kind of Steve Trevor is in the original Wonder Woman movie, like he's kind of already his own character. Like she brings out maybe a little bit extra side of him, but it's more like they fall in love and he has something more to fight for than he did before. I wouldn't say as much as like she brought out something different in him. Because he kind of already had all this bravery and stuff in him, knew what his duty was. But you really see her shine here, where she brings out something in Batman that he didn't have as much. And now it's a combination.
She's able to call him out on his BS.
Pretty much, yeah, pretty much. But yeah, I think you're right.
Batman sulking. Sorry, I was trying to create a Bat sulk. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Anyway,
So on that note, though, think about the way we personally impact and interact with those around us. What we've been talking about is essential to community, how we are connected and how we encourage one another, but also the fact that we think, oh, I'm not the one to impact. It has to be someone else.
yeah,
I don't have the skill set. I don't have the abilities.
So you're talking about like taking personal responsibility for the way we live our lives with other people.
Mm-hmm. And actually impacting lives where you see needs.
Absolutely.
Just like Bruce, he didn't feel that he was qualified and felt like he was strong enough to lead a league, and also felt that somebody else was qualified, who was Superman. Went to great lengths
true.
to bring him back. Now it ended up being a good thing, but still, sometimes we step behind the scenes. Sometimes we step back and leave things emptier than before, most when we don't address it. If you know what I mean. So like,
Yeah,
if we
makes
see
sense.
if we see a need to fit any kind of need in that.
Well, let's kind of try to make this like more take this down to like on a personal note. Like, how do you think? Well, first of all, how would we define leadership? Because I think Diana was really bringing there were some good points about becoming a leader, because she made the whole point is she didn't want to lead because she says, I'm just so used to fighting and I just do my job. But when you lead, I'm responsible for these people to the point where this is worth giving your life for. So why do you how would you define what leadership is, and then what does that look like in our own lives, and then why are we so afraid to possibly take leadership in certain areas?
Well, I think leadership is a combination of traits, personally, because you think of leadership as some people would think of leadership as just having power or control, and that's not the whole thing. Because to be an actual leader, there's something about it's the difference between being a tyrant and a leader. Technically, if you just have power and that's all you care about, that's tyranny, basically, or that's what you're pursuing in some way, shape, or form. At least selfishness. Even if it's not control over other people, if you're just seeking control in your own life, that's selfishness and pride. But leadership, in and of itself, I think. One obviously is courage, which is just again, we could say it's not the lack of fear; it's the courage and bravery to face fear. We can agree on that.
To not let fear dictate your actions.
Yes, thank you. That's a better way of putting it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And definitely, I think. I don't know. I think it depends on the situation to some things, because some people are meant to lead certain types. Like some people are meant for a military style of leading, political style of leading, church type of leading. I think there's different types of leadership. Some are just family type of leadership. Yet at their job they have no authority whatsoever, but they're a leader in their home. So there's definitely different types of leadership out there. So I don't know how you would define it as to hit the entire spectrum, because it could hit a lot of different things.
Someone once put it this way, and I thought it's just something that's I've always considered, if I can remember how he said it. He said, I have power, in other words, leadership. I have power not because I can tell you what to do, but because I can unleash your potential. And that kind of always stuck with me. I'm thinking, what do you mean by that? And the idea is kind of going back to the hope and fear theme. We all have had, people. I remember being in college. We talked about there's leaders and then there's managers, and we always use managers as like a byword that, oh, that's my manager. That's not my leader. I have to obey him because he's
Take me to your leader.
but he's got authority over me. And we always, we didn't like the manager, but we liked the leader. And sometimes the leader's not the one who is making the bigger paycheck. Sometimes it's your coworker, but there's something about that person who inspires you or pulls out the best in you. And I think for Diana and even Superman, we saw that how they're bringing out the best in people. And so I think that's what leadership is in many ways and we all can be leaders in different ways, but we pull out the best in others. And you're right, it is a culmination of different traits because it takes empathy, it takes compassion, it takes patience, it takes
selflessness,
so willing to confront your own fears, because many times as a leader you have to do the things that nobody else wants to do, but it has to be done, so it's your job to go ahead and do it. You lead by example. But I just always thought about that. It's like, how can I unleash your potential? And definitely, like, you guys have pushed me to unleash my potential in other ways, and so in a way we're all leading one another. And I think we're missing that in our world today. We just have people telling people what's right, what's wrong, what to do. Yeah. And there's no one's leading because, well, people are leading, but
well, everyone wants to be on the moral high ground,
but
that's not leadership in and of itself.
Yeah.
Right. You could say there needs to be a standard of some kind.
Yeah.
Because a standard will provide a solid foundation to advance from. If not, then you're leaping from rock to rock, and there's a precipice there, and you're trying to leap on these different stones, just trying to avoid it, and yet, you could potentially fall in it all the time because of the moral plot holes. You can almost say.
But even that is still. No, but I agree with that, and we come from a Christian worldview, and it's we can say we've had you could say maybe a Christian culture, if you will, where definitely there's Jesus, the Bible, Ten Commandments, certain things have been embedded in our culture and kind of taboo in certain taboo ways, but that doesn't make people any more eager to says don't commit adultery, the Ten Commandments. But we have people who are sleeping around with their boyfriend or girlfriend, and I'm not going to do this because what your Bible, your authority says not to.
You talk about standards.
Yeah, standards. And I think what we have to keep in mind is truth and ethics and doing the right thing. And leadership is not just, just don't do this. Why? Because I said so. That's fear.
Right.
That's being authority. Yeah. But talking about, well, why don't do that? Well, if you don't do that, you don't have to run the risk of emotional and physical abuse. You don't have to run the risk of getting a sexually transmitted disease. You have the freedom to not to just love people for who they are, and not because you're trying to get something out of them.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, those are the reasons why God has mandated certain things, not because he's a cruel tyrant. But if we were to really explore the reasons why he said, don't do this, we'll see the wisdom of he wants us to be fully alive. I want you to be, I want to unleash your full potential. And you can't do that if you're combating a sexual disease or you're in a relationship that's very toxic to you. And because you're so emotionally invested in this person, you can't let him go.
It's almost ironic that unleashing full potential requires restraint.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of ironic.
I mean, if you're going to go down
that would qualify as irony, isn't it?
Well, I guess to put in a metaphor, would it be a metaphor? We'll find out. If you're going down a road,
we all flunked English, so.
And here we are talking about philosophical ideals. Right. But if you're going to go down a road, if you're going to make it to the end of that road, you can't deviate from that road. Yeah, you might be able to deviate, but there's no guarantee that you'll make it back on that road. And if you do, you've lost some time. But going down the road, if you're going to make it to the end, you have to.
Can't go off on a rabbit trail.
Yeah.
Right.
And here we are. And there's the irony, bringing it full circle. Good night, everybody.
See, is that really about potential, though? Because you are reacting to the elements, what's outside of you.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not this is not simply just innate, it's also external. If you're dealing with both worlds, the internal and the external world. So you are dealing with some kind of outer standard.
Are you talking about, like, the fear of the unknown, of what's outside that path? Is that what you're talking about? We're talking about
just
reacting?
Advancing in life, in your dealings with others, and in your life path, you could say. So when you're advancing, you are dealing with external things that are not really related to you. even, for example, like, well, let's take the Ten Commandments, for example. Those were to show us that we were not perfect and that we couldn't keep those laws.
Mm-hmm.
They were to provide, these are really my standards. God was saying, this is the perfect way of really doing things. You can't do this on your own. I need to provide you with someone who can do these things perfectly on your behalf.
Mm-hmm.
So again, that was an act of love. But what is that? That's something external, also internal, because you have the Holy Spirit when you become a Christian. That enters inside of you. So you have the internal and the external. So it's not just merely unleashing your potential. There's also that hit into the world and that straight world is external. It's not necessarily your.
But
your
is
call.
it just external though? I mean,
No, it's not just external.
I would say I think it's be internal because, I mean, we can all agree on the world. There's a ministry called Charity Water. Definitely, it's an awesome cause where they're trying to create a world where everyone has access to clean water. That's something we can all agree on because we can all agree on people have innate value and everyone should have clean water. I mean, there's certain things that we can all agree on that just killing somebody for fun is not a good thing. It's a wrong thing to do. Those are things we can, just something inside of us innately says this is wrong. And that kind of goes back to that sense of justice. Now, can that justice be perverted? Yeah, but we all have this. We all have a moral sense that something's not right here and needs to change.
Yeah, and in that case, that would actually be a necessity. If we know that's a necessity and we've experienced it as a necessity, water. And so you could say that's external as well. So you're dealing with both worlds. That makes sense.
I think so.
Yeah. Again, we just want to make sure that we're kind of, we could always just be going different paths. We could be diverging in what we're saying.
Mm-hmm.
We could even mean the same thing at some point, but
Defining
just kind
the
of
terms.
adding to what was discussed. Because when you say unleashing your potential, that has a vibe about it that ranges into the blend of Western and Eastern culture of self realization and oneness.
Well, let me.
Kind of.
Yeah, I can see where you're getting at. When I say your potential, a friend of mine has defined it as I think the term is woke, that's a woke person. But there's certain people that I've encountered that, we're all on this journey. We're all on a journey trying to figure out how we live our life, who we are, and how we interact in the world in which we live in, as confusing as it can be at times. But there's just certain people you run into, and they just are remarkable individuals. There's just something about the way they talk, their personality. They just seem to love life. And granted, that might be just part of their personality, but there's just some people there's just something that you're different. You love people with unconditional restraint. That's just amazing. And you have, this one woman I know, her name's Sandy, and Sandy has done a ministry here in Nashville with the homeless. And you just talk with her. She just has so much love and compassion and wisdom for these people. And it's just what is different about you? And definitely, if she's one of the people who, invokes the love of Christ, very few people I've met, it's just incredible how she just loves people. But just certain people you can come in contact with, and you're this person is fully awake. They're, woke. They're fully awake. They're doing what they were made to do. They are
#woke.
Yeah. So, I mean, they're at what I'm saying, your potential, you were made for great things. I believe that God has made you and fashioned you for good things, for a purpose. And we fail to recognize that potential because we're afraid or because certain things are holding us back. And the whole thing about unleashing your potential is, how can I unlock your shackles to let you be the person you were made to be? Because if you do, you're going to do some amazing things for social justice. I mean, the guy who did Charity Water, if you look at his story, I'll send the link on the Facebook, but it's incredible how this guy started off as a bouncer, in a club, making lots of money, getting people drunk, and he decided, I'm just going to let all this go. And his life has been completely flipped upside down. He's doing this incredible stuff, and he had no qualifications for that. But it's just inspiring to be well, hey, if this is what he can do, what can I do?
Yeah. It's funny to me. I was actually watching something today.
That was a long tangent. Sorry.
No, that was good. That was a good tangent. That was a very good tangent, though. And I know we're kind of deviating off the film. We'll try to get back to it. But something I was watching earlier today, I'm trying to think the guy's name. The guy who did Dirty Jobs.
Yeah.
What's it,
Mike Rowe. Or
Mike
something?
Rowe. Okay, I thought that was it. Okay, but yeah, he was talking about one thing that we tend to see is I think some of the happiest people on the planet are the people who have learned to love work. Like
Find the joy in it, perhaps.
find the joy in work, find the love of work. But it's like we've gotten, and I'm guilty of this tons and tons of times. But we have a mentality of, okay, if I can work 35 hours a week instead of 40 hours a week, that'll free up more time, and I'll be happier because I have more time to spend on other things. But whenever I've had those days where I'm just like, all right, I'm going to go to work, I'm going to do a great job, I'm going to enjoy it. Like I actually, just because they asked me to, I burned through a day from open to close a couple of days ago, and honestly, it was a good day. It was a very good day. I enjoyed it. And because I think it was partially because once I got there and I was asked to do it, and I was like, I got into the mindset, I was like, all right, I'm working all day. Let's get stuff done. We got more done yesterday. We like redid half the store yesterday, or not yesterday, but a couple days ago, and we did very well in sales and everything. It was just a day where like, all right, from start to finish, it was like, all right, let's go to work. Like, let's just get stuff done. You find joy in that, and especially if you go in with the mindset to pursue work. And it was just a very happy day. It was very, very joyful in work, as opposed to days where I'm just like, when is it 5 o'clock? When does it get to 5 o'clock? Just like counting down. It's just not. I just think that's something we've lost in our culture, is the joy of work and
The value too.
the value of work. That'd probably be a better
realizing
term.
that the work that you do brings value.
Yes. Yeah. And I bring it back to your point of self-discovery and becoming the best you can be and becoming woke, let's say. I think there's a misconception that in order to become woke, you have to disengage from
You got to find yourself.
Yeah, like you have to go on like a physical and emotional journey somehow. Like, okay, leave work or leave school and just like go.
I need
on
to
like
go to the beach for 5 days.
Right,
I'll
or-
find myself with the sea turtles.
I need to go backpack across Europe to find myself. Or it's just like,
Yes.
no, you don't. Just like build your life.
There
and
is
your,
something that does sound very attractive about that.
I mean, yes,
am
that
not
sounds
gonna
attractive,
lie.
but no. See, but would it be more?
You
fun
will learn
to,
about yourself. That is for
You
sure.
would learn about yourself, but if you're going to pursue learning about yourself and like I need to figure
Yeah.
my life out, like that's not the right way to take those trips.
Yeah.
I mean, go in with the pursuit to just enjoy it. You have it. Be grateful that like I don't have to work right now, and I just get to enjoy this trip rather than I need to figure my whole life out right now, figure out who I am so that I can pursue what I want and plan out my whole life. Like that's just stressful, man. It's just like, no.
Yeah, like we do
that's-
need rest and
Yeah.
repose at times, but yeah, there's a difference between that bad escape and good escape. You could actually be escaping what you need to invest
Right.
in. Yeah.
Yeah,
which
you
is
could
kind
be.
of what you're getting.
Well,
to.
it's funny in my own work where I'm having opportunities to step into some more leadership roles, as it were, and as I'm kind of stepping into that, I'm thinking about doing more film and photography things, and I was just like, well, if I do that, then I'll take me away from that, and I was just like thinking, okay, God, maybe this is an opportunity for me not to run away from this because I can pursue this, but this is just a chapter in my life where I'm like, this will be good for me to really see what can I do, have more leadership. What can I bring to the table? What can I, encourage and inspire the people I work with? How can I push them not just do a better job, but really, and I think that's what good leaders do. They don't just get the job done. They invest in the people, realizing that, hey,
Yeah.
you're more than your job. I'm going to be working with you for maybe 2 weeks, maybe 2 years, but within that time, what have I left you with? Because that's going to last you the rest of your life.
Yeah. And I was talking to my manager about that, or my leader. I'll call him my leader. He's a good leader.
Well, I'm not
so
saying
I'll-
manager's a bad thing. It's a title. It's
Yeah,
just,
yeah, it's a
people
title, but-
use it very derogatory.
Yeah, it's
is
like
what I'm
my
saying.
manager, but no, I love my manager. He's awesome, and I don't think he listens to this podcast, so I'm not trying to just like gain points at work.
Well, let me ask you this real quick.
Um,
Go ahead and finish your point because I want to ask you a question.
Okay.
about that.
Well, yeah. Just one thing he was saying is like early on when he started managing a store, he got in trouble with his higher ups because he was doing everything himself. Like if something needed to be moved or reorganized, like he was doing things himself. Like so he was a fantastic worker. He's an amazing worker. He's a great
transition there.
he's a great manager mind as far as just like managing the floor of a store and how things should be. But managing people was where he had to struggle and lack. And he said he was in our conversation. He's like he's just kind of now getting into the groove of just like delegating and telling people just like, okay, you need to do this. Like, hey, can you work on this? And encouraging while telling people how to be better. So bringing out the best in them.
You could say Batman, the difference between Batman and Wonder Woman, actually.
Yeah,
because
my manager is basically the
Batman.
No, he's Wonder Woman because he brings out the best in people. So I'll tell him that next
okay.
time.
That's
Hey,
good.
I'm not gonna give out his name, but hey, manager, you're Wonder Woman to me. So there you go.
Oh, that's cool.
He's like,
Okay.
I'm welcome. What?
Oh, okay. I see. I was thinking
Make it
Batman
really
because of the
awkward.
more technical aspects. Like he was very focused on the technical aspects of it, or like the strategic.
Okay, so he's a
movements
combination
and
of
stuff
Batman
like
and Wonder
that.
Woman. So
Because
cool, I
Wonder
like
Woman
that.
is more about the group. He's
The
more
Wonder
about
the Wonder Bat.
Wonder
So,
Bat.
we're just about out of
Yeah,
time
we're
here.
out of time.
But kind of last point to go off of that is perhaps kind of the big takeaway for all of us would be is we need more leaders in our culture because we're telling other people what they're doing is wrong. Because I mean we're talking about the Florida shooting and talking about gun control and people are shouting back and forth how you're an idiot if this is what an AR-15 is and how it works.
Or
and
name calling and
yeah, and
calling
the other
people's
side are saying
BS.
like how you're just here to you're too trigger happy and we shouldn't arm people and teachers. And anyway, the point is there's just so much name calling but there's no dialogue going on. And so the problem with this is we're not bringing out the best in people. And if I may invoke Dale Carnegie, How to Win Friends and Influence People.
Great book.
One of the most important things you can do as a manager and a leader, but just as a person in general, is you want to make someone feel special. That's all. We want recognition.
Mm-hmm.
And the minute you take someone, like you degrade someone, you take what makes them special or away from them, they're gonna hate you for it, and they're gonna fight to push you down. So it's like, how can I might disagree with this person, but how can I edify this person but also encourage them to think? And there's other forces at play with politics. So I mean sometimes it's very hard to have an honest conversation, but if we were willing to honor the other person and talk with them, I think we would have a more fruitful conversation and actually reach resolution.
Yeah, and I think the hardest part of that is going to be the discussion side, because I've had some. I completely agree with you, and I've definitely been at fault for not entering a political or religious conversation or moral conversation with the intent to. Or I've gone into a conversation with the intent to criticize or the intent to win. Yes, and sometimes I have, sometimes I haven't.
That's a Batman
but
mentality.
Yeah, it's not a good mentality to go into. Nothing gets done there.
Yeah.
And nobody wins in that conversation. But I've had a few conversations where it's been, I want to learn the other person's perspective, give mine, and we have a conversation. It's a very civil conversation where we both learn something, whether or not anybody changes their mind. I think part of the problem is, at least, and again, this was just with one person, so I know this isn't everybody, but part of the problem, I think, is that at least with this conversation, it was me, a young Christian man talking, Christian conservative man talking to a young atheistic liberal, or I believe he was an atheist. I knew he wasn't a Christian, but I believe he said he was an atheist. I might be wrong. But just the moral background was different. And so the topic we came down to, I'm not going to give you the whole synopsis of what we discussed, but it kind of came down to, listen, I can't respect people's choices for this. I will respect people who make this decision. I will respect them as people and talk to them as human beings. I'm not going to be mean to them. I'm going to love them, but I cannot respect this decision, and I can't respect their life choices, and I can't go by their rules in a conversation because we differ morally. And he basically said, well, that's just a completely disrespectful way to live. That's a terrible way to live, and just basically walked away after we'd had like a 5-10 minute conversation. And now that's, again, I don't think that's everybody, but I think that's part of the problem, is that we're also coming at it from different moral perspectives. But that doesn't change the fact that you should enter any sort of political, moral, or religious conversation with the intent to let's encourage the other person and try to learn their perspective and learn how they think before you criticize anything they say.
Well, you know what, the simplest way of recognizing value in someone is really using their name. Because when you
You're
use
right.
a name is significant not only to them, but also in the way that you respond to them. So when you say their name, you are saying, I am listening to you.
Say my name, say my name.
Exactly. Yeah. And you can even sing that in front of them so that
Yeah.
they recognize they need to know your name.
That's what I'm
also.
gonna do to people anytime they
Hey,
don't
that will
say
help
my name.
diffuse the heated conversation right
Right.
there.
And
No.
so look at the characters in Justice League. They have names, and these people are often embodiments of what we'd like to be, and that's why people love to. That's why they love heroes like that.
Yeah.
They love Wonder Woman because of what she stands for. They love Superman for what he stands for. They even love Batman for his broodiness and
Yeah.
all that. But we all have heroes that we look up to. That goes all the way back to mythology and
Yeah.
these people that we cling to.
Just one last note to close on. I wish that we had so the scene in Guardians of the Galaxy where there's the dance off. That is the best diffusion of any situation ever.
What are you doing?
And there's another copy of
Oh.
it in Daddy's Home. I don't know if you guys saw that. Will Ferrell and Mark Wahlberg did a movie together called Daddy's Home, and same thing. Basically, like this huge argument breaks out in a like a daddy-daughter dance tonight at the school, and in order to diffuse the situation, Mark Wahlberg just starts dancing randomly. And it's like in both movies, like it completely diffuses the situation. Like that's what I'm gonna do next time. There's a huge argument going. I'm just gonna like pull out my phone, play a song, and start dancing, and just like completely diffuse the situation just to see how it works.
So, in other words, you're going to be a leader. And
Yes.
and basically push everyone to a higher standard. They're like,
All right, guys. So here's the
like
rule: if you're gonna have a political discussion, you have to dance while we're doing it. All right, that's the rule. That actually worked. That'd be interesting.
that actually would be quite interesting.
Next presidential debate starts with a dance off.
That's good.
Well, if that was the case, President Obama, I'm pretty sure, still would have cleaned the floor on John McCain.
That's racist.
Why?
I'm assuming it's racist.
Okay. So should I start dancing then to diffuse the
You're
conversation?
too white to dance.
Yes, I am too
We
white.
could
to
just
dance.
sing a bunch of shanties, right? Irish shanties. Like
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
St.
I was
Patty's
just
Day,
thinking that,
okay.
but yeah, there
we
go.
haven't mentioned St. Patty's Day on the actual podcast, but it is
Yes.
St. Patty's Day. So
Yes, St. Patty's Day. There you go.
Alright.
But yeah, that's also a good idea. If you just want to find a few words to know and just start singing them together.
all right. So real quick, everyone do your Irish accent and sign off here.
Oh my gosh.
So
So, this is David. Well, that was not good. Let me start over.
oh man.
All right. Thank you for watching Cinema Rabbit Trailers. This is David.
I'm Adam.
And I'm Jerry.
And I'll see you next time.
See you next time.
Bye.
See you next time. Bye.